Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. If you're just joining us, you are right in time for the first discussion. My name is Jane Wamboya Karibu. Once again to Good Morning Kenya. The official hashtag ever remains hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter, our official station handle at KBC Television, and tag us individually on those questions or comments that you may be having in regards to these discussions that we bring to you. My handle is Jane Wamboya, my colleagues at Ray Manyara, at Ramaguko, and at Doreen Arange. Now, we want to get started with the first discussion, and this one is all about agriculture and the agricultural sector here in Kenya. What is ailing us and what more do we need to do? And to help me with this discussion, I have three fantastic gents with me in studio. I'll start with my immediate left. He is Professor Don Huber, who is a plant pathologist. Welcome.
Thank you.
Karibu. All right. At the center, we have Dr. Peter Mokaya, who is the Managing Director at Organic Consumer Alliance. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And to the extreme left, we have Professor Ratemo Micheka, who is the Honorary Secretary at the Kenya National Academy of Science. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
We're glad you're with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. So we want to talk about matters to do with agriculture. And if you feel we have any questions that you would like to be addressed or any clarifications that you may be needing, please feel free to send them through using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya, Pale Twitter. So before we even get started into the discussion, when you talk about agroecology, somebody out there might be wondering, what is this agroecology that we're talking about even in the first place? So maybe we could start by just demystifying and helping our viewers understand what these terminologies that we're going to be heavily using in this discussion, what they mean even in the first place. So maybe we could start with agroecology in itself. Maybe we'll start with you, Don. What does agroecology even mean in the first place, in layman's language?
Well, in agriculture, it's really managing an ecology. Mm-hmm. Ecology is everything that's around us, everything that supports the plant, everything that ultimately supports us.
Yes.
It starts with the soil. Mm-hmm. We have the plants, you have the environment, and we have those tools then that we use to manage this ecology. Yes. To make sure that we have the food that we need. Mm-hmm. And the nutrition. Yes. That we need.
So it's a whole lot of different things put together that, touch on the plants, the humans, the animal, even the soil itself.
Right.
All right. Maybe Dr. Makaya, well, what more would you like to add to this definition of agroecology to help our viewers better understand it's not a jargon or something so foreign that, they're not used to hearing?
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to say that for the purposes of the audience, that yes. This is unusual that a medical doctor is in a panel discussing food. And just to add on to what Professor Don Huber just shared. Yes. It's really that kind of agriculture that embraces natural systems. Mm-hmm. And the appreciation that we are all an ecosystem, ecology, yeah. An ecosystem. The difference between agroecology and right now as we speak, at Safari Park, we are carrying out the first international conference on agroecology. Really in simple layman's terms. This is how we used to farm. Mm-hmm. For the purpose of the audience. It's nothing new, it's how we used to farm before synthetic pesticides were introduced about 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's really not something new. Mm-hmm. It's going back to the roots, as it were, and embracing the farming that probably your grandmother or your great-grandmother, just about 50 years ago, used to farm. Mm. And essentially it's farming that appreciated that there was no need, absolutely, to introduce synthetic pesticides mm-hmm. into farming systems, and the appreciation that we are an ecosystem, a process that used what was in harmony with nature, what embraced that we did not need to kill anything to produce food.
For the benefit of the other.
For the benefit of the other. Yeah. It is a system of food production that appreciates that we can sustainably produce food and feed human beings, and be healthy. That's why the doctor is here. Without having disease. By embracing a system that appreciates that food can be produced sustainably without synthetic pesticides. Essentially, for example, appreciating that we don't have to kill to produce food. We can produce food without killing, because essentially pesticides are biocides. Yes. Biocides is an approach of agriculture that kills to produce food. We believe that agroecology is a system whereby food can be produced without killing, but where we allow each other to live and let live. But by enabling certain species to exist differently, others can then do the job of feeding us, while other species can actually eat those other species that we kill with chemicals, but that can be destroyed without interfering with that ecosystem. So really, this is the key thing about agroecology, is that farming system that was there before. It's not a Western concept, so some people have said that this is a Muzungu thing. Dr. Don Huber, my friend, is over here, and Professor Micheka is over here. They are smiling because this is really kienyeji farming, but now embracing technology, embracing science, and dare say even embracing biotechnology.
In a very sustainable way, for that matter.
Exactly.
Let me come to you, Prof. You know, when you talk of agroecology, people, just as he's saying, it seems like a very new, very foreign term, yet it's just about going back to the good old days, how things were. And when we talk about the good old days, you know, there's such a sustainable way of doing agriculture. And when we talk about sustainable agriculture, what really do we mean in this day and time?
Thanks, Jane. I think it's the terminology. Really, we have been doing the same for years, back time immemorial. It is only the terminology and the application of what we do that matter. I think the explanations by Professor Huber and Dr. Mukaya fit in. I think the key thing is perhaps to ensure that whatever we do sustains alive in the future, intra-generations, and we don't spoil the environment with various substances, as the Dr. said, pesticides, etc. So we really have to maintain what we have and live and let live for future generations, years to come.
I like that, live and let live, you know, in a very sustainable way. And when we talk about, you know, organic agriculture, which is also one other terminology that we're going to be using heavily in this discussion, what exactly do we mean for the benefit of our viewer once again? Organic agriculture, let me hear from you.
Let me tell you really, organic agriculture is what has been going on and used for years back, time immemorial. Many, many years before we were all born into this. The only big thing is that those days, nobody added an additive, be they the fertilizer, be they any pesticide at that particular time. Populations have grown. If you recall, I'm sure, Jane, you must have not been there during independence, the population of this country was very young. For example, small. And world population was small at that time. There was availability of space, land, energy, etc. at that particular time. As people progressed, populations increased. Then there is a need, and there has been a need, continuous need, to feed that fast-growing population. And therefore, the so-called organic farming, which is absolutely necessary to sustain the agroecology, we say, may not seem to be holding tight because of that reason I've given you. Populations came up, people want to live, people want to eat, and you do know the population from, say, 1960s to the present time in Kenya has gone much, much higher. And
by
therefore,
millions.
Necessitating persons to find alternative ways of producing crops. But that should not mean that the pesticides, like my brother said, should really be used to produce if there is no need whatsoever to apply them.
And you know, when you talk about, you know, population growth, it has a direct effect on the agricultural system, as you're just rightfully putting it. And, you know, just as you're saying, as we're trying to feed the nation, you find that some people here and there tend to compromise in a bit to just be able to produce the quantity that is needed, disregarding, you know, the ecological effects, you know, how the ecosystem will be affected. And we quickly want to look at some of those, you know, challenges that are facing the agricultural systems here in our country as of now. And let's start with, you know, population growth itself. Let me hear from you, Professor Don. When it comes to population in regards to agricultural system, how do they even intertwine? How do they affect each other on a very direct basis?
Well, we're all part of that ecology. And part of our problem is that we become used to silver bullets in the chemicals and forgotten that we're part of this ecology that works together. And there are many innovations that we can use and that can be employed to maintain that production, maintain that quality without damaging,
compromising the system.
And compromising the system, as you indicate there. So that as we need more production, there are many ways to obtain that. Gene expression, for one thing, through our traditional breeding programs. A lot of those things are things that you look at in the future, rather than just saying, well, tomorrow I'm going to go out with a silver bullet and I'm going to solve this problem. That's not managing the ecology. That's not building the ecology in the support base for us.
Just living for the now, disregarding how tomorrow will be like, tomorrow will sort itself. Now, let me hear from you, Doc. When we talk about the population, but can you really blame the people in as much as, we're trying to feed each other. We cannot live without eating. So you try to find a way that will ensure that supply meets the demand, and you end up compromising the ecosystem.
Thank you for asking that question. And I agree with what Professor just shared. 100%. I agree with Professor Donna said. For me, honestly, it's very simple. Agroecology. So the core is the bit of ecology. The bit of ecology is the bit that our ancestors, our grandmothers and grandfathers intuitively recognized that for some strange reason, we who were supposed to be more educated don't seem to realize. What do I mean? You asked initially the definition of what organic is. Organic is the packaging of that system of farming that produces food that is informed by principles of ecology as the anchor, as a foundation. And once you embrace the concept of ecology, it means you appreciate that we are a system. The difference between the current conventional food systems, indeed to produce food, are predicated upon the basis that we need to produce more. Listen to this. Is more focused on one singular output or outcome, productivity.
Quantity over quality.
Quantity over quality, and at the expense of the ecology.
Of the source.
Because what's happening now is that many of these synthetic pesticides, chemicals, fertilizers, and other things, including fertilizers, that are residents of heavy metals like arsenic, lead, and so on, not just pesticides, all these synthetics that are produced using fossil fuels, petroleum products, not only are they polluting the environment, as Professor would ably agree, but they are producing nutrients that are specifically geared towards the plant. Listen to this. And indeed, over the last 20, 30 years, they've increased productivity to feed the increasing numbers. But there is another way, as Professor said. There is another way that we can produce food to feed the increasing numbers. There's an alternative way that does not kill or does not compromise the ecology, the ecosystem, at the expense of producing food in quantities that is not necessarily safe. Let me just freeze there. I'm still defining organic. The FAO and UN has defined food security, and this now links up with the FIC4 agenda, as food is available to all people at all times that is safe, nutritious, and meets their daily requirements. Hallelujah. Do you know why I say that? It's because that means, therefore, that if the food is not safe, we cannot achieve food security, which is pillar one in the Big Four agenda. And the doctor is here. If you're producing unsafe food, which we are consuming, guess what happens? You're increasing disease. And if you're increasing disease, pillar two, how are you going to achieve universal health coverage?
They're intertwined.
And then it goes on into productive healthy people, manufacturing, agribusiness, people who are healthy and productive, generate income, livelihoods, they can build their own houses. There you are with the Big Four agenda. And the core of it, therefore, we're proposing that growing food in a system that embraces the ecology, the climate, the diversity, the nutrients in the soil, and enriches the soil so that the soil microorganisms can generate those nutrients that the plants require without the use of synthetic pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. This is very key for the audience to understand. And therefore, the key pillar of organic agriculture, organic is that label we give to an agroecological process where you produce food that is ecologically sound, that is produced in a manner that is fair to the small-scale farmers, that everybody is a democratic system, as opposed to the current system where the shift of those who produce food are multinational corporates who want to control the production of food, and feed the rest of the world on their own terms. That's a key distinction. The third one, because there are 4 key pillars of agroecology. The third one is about fairness. The third one is about caring. This is where, again, ecology comes in. You need to feed the world in a humane manner. We don't want to feed the world at the expense of any part of the ecosystem, be them the microorganisms, the animals, the plants, the environment, the water, the air, and so on. So that's very key, that we produce food in a humane manner without killing the ladybirds and the bees and the butterflies, which are innocent.
In as much as we're trying to keep up with the numbers.
To keep up with the numbers. And in the process, guess what? Any form of substance that kills life will also finally kill human beings. Take note on the doctor is saying that.
I think that's a consequence that hasn't really sunk home.
It hasn't sunk home. And the final bit that I'll say that I stop for now is that it's the aspect, the key, the component of health. Health for the human being, health for the plants, health for the animals, and health for the entire ecosystems. So this, unlike what we do right now, which is a mechanistic reductionist approach, this is a holistic systems thinking approach that embraces the entire ecosystem. Thank you.
There needs to be a change of mindset.
Absolutely, it requires a radical change in mindset. So thank you for saying that.
Yes.
And it can be done sustainably. The studies are coming out now. The 2 professors agree. They're more experienced than I do. That this system is able to produce up to 2 times the amount of productivity that the current system that uses chemicals and pesticides is producing. And this is science.
Yes. We'll be coming to that, just looking at the level of awareness that is out there for the public. But before we get to that, let me hear your thoughts, Prof. When it comes to, trying to keep up with, feeding the numbers to try and avoid extreme hunger, which is still a problem across the world. And, we end up compromising the ecosystem and the whole food and agriculture system as a whole. Your thoughts?
Jen, like I said, really, it can be done. We can get all our food organically, if indeed it is possible. It can be done. It's really going to a virgin land and using it without any application of anything. But the reality comes in play. We said live and let live.
Yes.
But then persons cannot go starving, going hungry, if they see they can do certain things and they have seen the effect of a particular fertilizer to a crop. You plant little place, the yield is much higher than that particular point.
It's true.
What I think I should actually say here, I agree with the views of Professor Huba and Dr. Mokaya, absolutely right. But necessity and the conditionality and the hunger and lack of that food, both quality and the quantity, will definitely, without mincing my word, necessitate the utilization and the use and even careless use, I can offer to say that, of pesticides, including fertilizers. The reasons we suffer, and we'll come to that maybe in a short while, is because of public knowledge, extension services, policy, corruption, adulteration of a fertilizer comes in specified, like an NPK, so much numbers, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, specific. Then somebody brings a bag and mixes it, brings in problems. Just the other day I was reading the papers on the polluted waters in Kenya. Pollution by antibiotics, leave alone pollution by various pesticides. We have to use some, but being extremely careful to avoid overuse, pollution, and again killing the generations we say live and let live. It is the best way to go, organic farming. But the question big is this: can actually be done? You do not know it. Every country these days, I do know places like in London where you go to a shop, they say this is organic food, more expensive than the ordinary food that we have.
Yes.
So if I went there today, I will say organic food, 10 pounds, ordinary food, 5 pounds. Which one could I go for? So it is for the elite at times. So really, it is possible, but let us go with cautiously because we have combinations of headaches, survival, dashing for everything, and wanting to save that environment at the expense of our people dying. And our 4 pillars will therefore not sustain food security.
And the
hence education, science. People don't respect science.
Yeah.
When you are told, take 2 Panadols every 2 hours, doctor here knows if you have had 2 Panadols every 2 hours, will you take 10 every 10 minutes? Oh, no. But when they tell you put 16 milligrams of glyphosate into a container and a spray here, let it be that. But somebody says 16
it's too little.
Let me add double.
Yeah.
In the process, they are polluting.
Doing more damage
so
than
therefore, it is education, technology, public awareness, which this country, I said it yesterday, very, very emphatically again, that without really awareness and education, we shall keep on talking the same subject for days and days to come.
And just as like I said, the consequences will eventually catch up with us. Yeah. And you brought up something very vital. It is also a challenge that is facing the agricultural system, and that is the whole question of poverty when it comes to finances. How do we link poverty and how we are compromising the food and agricultural system? Let me hear from you, Prof.
We address that again through addressing all of the inputs that go in, rather than just looking at how we take things out. We've been withdrawing from this ecological bank now for about 80 years without thinking about what do we need to put back, what do we need to have for sustainable production. And it's that sustainability that gives us the opportunity to rise above the poverty as everybody makes that contribution in a compatible manner, rather than just as a withdrawal without thinking about sometimes we're going to run out of the bank account.
Yeah. And just like you're saying, we never really think of the consequences, when it eventually runs out, what will I do? We just think of the now and then, like, I need to eat now. And just as like Prof was saying, I go to a store, an organic one goes for $10, $20, and something just out there in the street would go for half or a quarter of that, and you end up just choosing what you are able to at that moment without thinking, well, it's what I can do. That also just, your financial situation sort of dictates what you are able to access there and then, in terms of just it being still a challenge in facing the agricultural system.
And certainly that's a driving force as we see it now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be the driving force. Part of it is learning how to grow your own food, learning how to be part of that ecology. And then you can address the nutrition, you can address the specific needs that you have as an individual much more effectively than having someone else dictate what that's going to be for you.
So as it is, we're paying for the consequences. We're actually living the consequences of our past as of now. The fact that you cannot be able to eat something healthy because it was already compromised in the past. All right, your thoughts?
Professor, just a minute. Let me, I think we have discussed about organic farming without actually explaining. Can I take a second?
Sure,
to
what it entails.
Organic farming precisely means this, that you grow a crop without addition of any chemicals, particularly a fertilizer.
Whatsoever?
Whatsoever. Absolutely never. You use biodegradable substances, manure, trash, etc., that can decompose very quickly.
Organic.
And for cattle, you just have a cow without spraying any chemicals. So when you milk cow without having sprayed the ticks on that particular cow if it comes to livestock. If it's chicken, you just grow kienyeji chicken, which is very popular. Okay? That's why I'm saying that there are quantities you need for growing 1 hectare using manure, for example. Take cow dung manure or donkey manure, which we probably don't use, or goat's manure. You have to go to Masai land. For Kenya here, for example, Masai land where there's a lot of cattle, during the dry weather, put trucks of that manure, transport it, say to Nyandarua, or say to Nakuru, and now spread it in the farm, in the field, covering that field with that truck of manure. Okay, you understand?
Yeah.
Whereas synthetic, where you use now a fertilizer, you take a bag of 50 kilograms, 25 kilograms, and spread it along where you are planting the crop. And that may be perhaps easier to transport and carry, less laborious, less quantity. It is the quantity that matters. If I had trucks and trucks of manure, to do hectares, no problems whatsoever. It is really the availability, the doing of it. Therefore, organic farming is strictly using material other than any chemicals, be it a fertilizer, and then you grow that crop or you milk that cow without using any chemicals, be it a herbicide, a nematicide, or something else that can kill those that in the soil. So that's the difference.
Yeah. Now, still in that, when it comes to pesticides and fertilizers, they are sort of a double-edged sword. Yes. It helps, and it's also part of the challenge.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk a bit about it when in the divide of the challenges, because not all are bad, but when it becomes harmful. Tell us a bit more about that.
When it organic,
the harmful side.
Organic material.
Maybe I should just jump in. The harmful bit is a doctor thing because eventually it affects.
Okay, maybe. Yeah,
Professor can allow me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I agree with him 100%, and I just want to go back to what Prof said earlier on. Something very important.
Yeah.
As it is right now, it's not possible for the agroecological systems that embrace organic agriculture and other methods that are generally don't use synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. It's quite right.
Yeah.
But there is a global, listen to this very carefully, there is a global realization that the approach that we use, that Professor is alluding to feed the world now for the last almost 50 years, the so-called Green Revolution, has failed. This is, the audience needs to know that. It is not me saying.
Yeah.
And the evidence of that is that the latest research coming is that if we continue farming
the way we are,
using the extractive methods of taking from the ecosystem
and not
returning,
yeah,
and in the process actually hurting the ecosystem. The fertilizers, the lead, the arsenic, the pesticides, while they're increasing productivity of the food that you're consuming, which is increasingly becoming unsafe. Watch this. This is not a sustainable system, like Prof said, because while it's feeding us, it's also harming, to a certain extent, the ecosystem. And therefore, there is need to gradually, this is a key word, we're saying organic can't feed the world. Why do you think organic food is more expensive? The audience needs to know. Because the audience knows it's safer. Is healthier. So what we need to do is to find a system, and that's where the conference comes in, to show with evidence that this system, which is healthier, and that's why the Kienyeji egg is more expensive than the normal egg.
Yes.
People are not stupid. This is why organic, like Prof just said correctly, is costing £10 because people know that the other food is harming the chemicals, the residues in that food is harming our health. It comes down to human well-being, our health. This is the driving force of the food systems. So recently, the United Nations has come up with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. What the audience doesn't know is that one of the things that the Sustainable Development Goals have hitched is that we cannot continue farming using the current model of killing of biocides. We need to embrace and shift gradually, like Prof said, because organic diet can gradually.
It's a
of course, it's going to eat a little bit of toxic food rather than no food at all, extreme hunger. Not my word, not my word. And it's doable. The studies that have been done in Kenya, in East Africa, and we are presenting those. If you attend the conference today and tomorrow, you will see case studies that actually the system that Professor is alluding to doesn't necessarily require transporting manure from Masai land to Kiambu. You can actually use the biodegradable materials within your own farm. It's readily available. From your chicken, from your cow, from your goat, from your poo-poo, if you process it, which is natural, and allow the leftovers of what grows from the plants and what grows from the animals, the cow farm manure, to actually return it to the soil. Listen to this. So that the soil microorganisms regenerate, and we have humus, we have organic manure or organic material, that the research coming out now has shown that we don't target the plant, we actually target healing the soil.
And
I'm a doctor here, and I'm saying I've just learned over the last, in practice for the last 30 years, we need to heal the soil, regenerate the microorganisms in the soil, if we want to achieve sustainable food systems, because those microorganisms replace the synthetic parasites. This will take time, as Prof has correctly said. and that's Don Huber, who is an expert in this for the last 40 years or so, we need to heal the soil. This is the biggest message coming out of the agroecology conference.
Yes.
And can it be done? Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Why? Hello, look at the Amazon. Look at the trees in the Amazon. Who has been putting chemicals from the the Amazon is one of the richest ecosystems.
It's flourishing.
Did you see somebody with NPK there and with some material from some chemical companies I don't want to name here being poured there to grow Kakamega forest?
Use Kakamega forest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, it's that we lost common sense. If we give it time, we can allow nature its genius. It will feed us sustainably. We will save the money that we use now for producing these synthetic chemicals and fertilizers, and we will save and heal the ecosystem. Because right now, like Prof said, even the chemicals, the antibiotics we use in medicine, those residues of antibiotics from in agriculture are actually polluting the waterways.
The water we use.
They're causing these residues to come back into a system and cause antibiotic resistance. It's not just glyphosate and Roundup that are causing problems and causing cancer, but also resistance coming from the residues of the chemicals from the antibiotics. Prof is very right about that. Those antibiotics are actually likely to cause what we call an apocalypse of a system whereby we can no longer use the normal antibiotics to treat disease. So it's bigger than just chemicals or the Roundups and the glyphosate. It's a bigger system where we're using a process of killing to treat, because in health also we now know that we can heal without necessarily using those bullets. By eating the right food, by rebalancing the ecosystem, we can reverse diabetes naturally.
And nature knows how to take care of
Thank
itself.
you very
We're
much.
the ones who are compromising.
Nature has genius. Nature is genius.
Yeah.
If we allow it to work in a balanced ecosystem, of course that takes time, it will heal itself. In fact, I put it to you and share with the audience that we human beings have done the greatest injustice and disservice to the system of nature, to Mother Nature. That if we listen to nature and its wisdom, many of the things we do which we think are helping us produce more food are actually harming the ecosystem.
I think patience is the biggest challenge when it comes to that.
Yes.
Let me hear from you, Prof. You know, when you talk about, how we can even help nature, how we can help the soil, how we can help the plants, what do you feel we need to do in terms of fertilizers and, pesticides? Because as we heard, not all of them are bad. It just depends with which ones we use, how we use, and how much we use them.
Well, we need to realize that it's a living system. The soil isn't just a floor that we stand on. It's really a living system that's working for us. Now, in order for it to work, it also has to have the food.
Yeah.
Those organisms need to be fed. And that's why we can't just always take it out. When we're approaching a lot of the chemical industry type of an approach, it's really, we're just taking from that system, but we're not putting anything back.
Just depleting it,
And that system needs support. If we'll support it, it's kind of like if I have the food that I need for my energy, I can work a lot harder for someone else. Those organisms really want to work for us.
It's the same way.
They have the capability. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But we can't just take from them and expect them to continuously support our other systems. And we can't poison them and still expect them to be able to support that overall system that we work with.
Yeah. So it's just in the way we do things. We really need to change that. Don't just be taking from the soil. From somewhere you kill it. Yet it's trying to help the soil go back to where it was ages ago. True?
Yes.
No, you asked an earlier question, if I can come in.
Yes,
Sure.
Professor Huber here, about poverty and population.
Yes.
And we have talked about an organically grown food. So if really all Nairobi and people in Nairobi went for organic food, they probably would not have enough of it. Leave alone affording to buy it, to purchase it.
Yeah.
I know there are shops here now already with organic foods all over the place. Nothing wrong with that at all. But now, like I said, it's actually for the elite. Let me touch on pesticides for a second, if you don't mind. There are very common pesticides in the country used, but the most known ones now to the farmers to date, and even used continuously, is the glyphosate Roundup.
What is that? for the benefit of our viewers.
Is a pesticide used for controlling weeds in many plantation crops like tea, coffee, pyrethrum, areas that have difficulty to control weed species in a particular area. Okay. And it kills those weeds as they germinate. That herbicide has been discussed over and over, and we are actually discussing it today. And let me say this, it is one of the largest selling compound that was ever created by the then Monsanto. Now it is with the Bayer chemicals. It is being discussed heavily, and farmers do know about it as Roundup, or generally called glyphosate, the common name for it. The problem alluded to, being talked about now, is that it is probably suspected to cause cancer. That's the language now is being used worldwide. And there are studies all over the world today, from the US, EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, France, with our friend Eric Sorelina, whose talk we had yesterday, South Africa, Japan, China have done studies in the European Union, specific studies on these compounds. There is some divided thinking. But the common one thought is this: use it carefully. It actually may not, is suspected, it may not have any cancer-causing agents at this point in time. That's not been proven so. Studies, 3/4 of the studies I've gone through show that it is not even near there, or even probable. But I think the conference is heavily tuned to saying it indeed has problems, and we need to prove of that. But the literature that has come out, almost 70–80% of that literature to date and research in the laboratories do indicate that it is a safe compound to use. Unlike other chemicals, it breaks down. Breaking down means it is broken. When you spray it, it is easily digested or disappears or mixes with water and becomes non-volatile, non-active at that point in time. Decomposition, we call it metabolism or degradation of that particular compound.
Into its simplest
form.
So
it does. But farmers in this country know it. Prof, the persons in this nation, Kenya, especially large tea growers and coffee growers, you mention its effect, they will tell you, I will still use it. The key thing, Prof, is this, that they do not now use it per se according to the specifications. And therefore, discussions on it go on. Science has to come in, respect for science and information and data, statistics, numbers telling you are 6 inches or 4 feet or 10 feet matter a lot. So those are the things we are now going for, statistics to know that indeed it has caused cancer in specific animals. And it is being used for rats, etc., but the rates used to test have not been completely revealed, and frogs and rats, etc. So really, for me, as I stand here talking and advising the public, we still have a way to go.
A long way.
To prove that indeed glyphosate is carcinogenic. It is still not, as at this point in time, with the literature that we actually have. So there's, but other compounds, like there is a one called 2,4,5-T. 2,4,5-T is with a lot of chlorine on it. It was banned, no longer used at all in the world, because I used it when I was a postgraduate student, spraying, and it also had very strong killing effect. That one was persistent in the soil. Sit in the soil, kills weeds existing, and whichever comes up again is killed. That is not in the market. And glyphosate is not in that category of compounds that persist, or they are called persistent organic pollutants. It's not one of those at this point in time. But discussions are held. We need to prove otherwise, and this conference continues. Science continues. The Kenya National Academy of Science and University of Nairobi continues, but we are using all data worldwide to combine and make decisions as time goes by.
For future generations.
For future generations. Live and let live.
Yes,
people say, well, we can't farm without these chemicals. I consult in many areas in the world where people have told us that, well, we have to have these toxic chemicals, one of them glyphosate. What we're finding is that it accumulates in the soil for 20 to 30 years. And so when the U.S. Geological Survey started analyzing soils for the degradation products of glyphosate as well as for the product, we're finding up to 4 ton per square mile of glyphosate in many of our Midwest and Florida soils. So that for sugarcane, for instance, we were told we have to have the ripener. We get another 2 or 3% sugar. And we have a team that's working together, that's been working together, both in Brazil and in Central America. And we said, no, our purpose is in farming is to capture the sun's energy and store it as sugar. And when we add a little nitrogen, then we have protein and we have the other nutrients. So that we've been doing that for 5 years. We have 64,000 hectare that now are under a strictly nutrition program. Part of the reason for that is that 1 out of 4 sugarcane workers is anticipated to die from end-stage kidney failure from glyphosate exposure.
Just interacting with the
this year.
Wow.
Now the glyphosate is applied 4 to 5 weeks before the worker goes into harvest. But it's systemic in the plant and it accumulates so that as they're out working very hard in the heat and in the environment, that they will cut off a small chunk of that stalk that they're harvesting for sugar, and they chew on it. Gives them something to do, but also some energy. That's where the glyphosate is stored. As it chelates or as it combines with the minerals, then it gets into the kidney and it plugs up the kidney, and it's a matter of very serious life and death situation. So that what we did was we said, our purpose is to capture the sun's energy and to store it as sugar. Why do we need to kill the plant? Let's have the plant grow to its optimum to perform its function, but let's modify those nutrients so that rather than just growing more factory, more plant,
faster,
let's have it focus after we get the factory built, the plant built, let's have it focus on producing the sugar and storing it. So that with some very simple nutrients, with some boron, some molybdenum, and a little bit of manganese, this year on that 64,000 hectare, we produced 31,000 ton more sugar with 28% less input going into it. Now, sugarcane is a perennial type of a crop because the buds then become the next crop. What the glyphosate did was it was killing a lot of those buds so that our stand continued to deteriorate. Now, next year again, we'll have even higher production because we're building the system. We're feeding those organisms rather than killing those organisms that make that plant or help that plant capture that sun's energy through photosynthesis. I could give you many examples of what we've been doing the last 10 or 15 years, both for disease control as well as to increase our production and our nutrient density.
So it can be done. The thing is just patience. I think patience plays a very big role in this, because it was only patience. You allowed the sugarcane to flourish just with the sun energy to capture it in its own way and not have to hasten with ripeners and all. You know?
That's very interesting. But I think I would love to in the course of time, honestly, I would like to see the idea of persistence of that compound in the soil. Give me a sentence, just 1 minute.
Very briefly, we have to consider time.
When you want to test the persistence of a compound, and the glyphosate really is not known to persist in the soil at all. You plant a crop, remove it, plant another one. It will die if that compound was in the soil. There. It will die, yes, because it has been there, active, and again it will kill that particular crop which is sensitive to that compound. So, and they're saying that it translocates, of course, into the sugarcane. When you eat it, I think that is extremely interesting to note. I appreciate it, but I'm not convinced. Therefore, even atrazine we have been using in maize production will be found in the corn, in the maize seed that we cook ugali in. That's what it's trying to imply, that you get sugarcane, translocates, you eat it, you get it in the body, touches the liver and kills you. Questionable. Done. We need to work and find out whether that is true or is perhaps sensational in some people talking about it. And you have to follow a life cycle of a person. A sprayer must be checked, the blood system must be worked to see the enzymes and that is already in the body. If there are traces of that substance in the body every 6 months that you used it.
Yes.
I used it when it was being developed by Stoffer. In fact, it's the one that educated me those compounds. So there may be new development which I don't know, and I would love to engage in discovering what you're saying.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
Let me just add a quick
let me hear from him quickly before we get to the solutions very fast. Yeah.
I can see where the two gurus are coming from. Don is a professor of plant pathology. Professor Micheka is a weed scientist. He's one of the top people in this country. I understand clearly where they're both coming from. And from a health point of view, again, going back to the ecosystem, the approach that Prof is propagating is clearly, like I said earlier on, a killing approach. Please understand. And what we are proposing in this conference is that there is another way of feeding that does not require glyphosate. There is, of course, a raging debate right now about whether glyphosate is not safe or not. 2012, WHO said categorically that glyphosate is a type class 2A carcinogen. The terminology used here is probable. The reason why they use probable is that there were not enough human studies. But note, the same group from WHO said in animal studies it's a type 1 confirmed carcinogen. For the records, in humans, type class 2A, meaning it's probable because of less studies. But in animals, it's clearly a carcinogen class 1A, for the records. Number two, therefore, based on that, as a medical person, this is WHO, it's my domain, it implies, therefore, that you cannot, for any dose, from where I sit, from the literature I've read, I cannot stand on the TV and say that glyphosate is safe. Right now, there are concerns. And as much as the two professors have said they have the literature, I too, for the last 10 years, as a medical practitioner, as a public health person, as a epidemiologist, as a former researcher at Cambridge, my research seems to suggest that we should be very careful with saying that glyphosate is safe. My view, therefore, is actually, for the audience, that glyphosate at any level is not safe.
It's not safe.
It's not safe. And if you have alternatives, rather use alternatives.
Better be safe than sorry.
Yes.
All right. Now, I'm being told we are completely out of time, but just for the benefit of our viewer, in terms of solutions, very quickly, what do you feel we need to do in terms of just embracing agroecology and what it entails? How do we become practical about it? Let me start with you, Professor Huber.
Education is important.
Yes.
We've had 2 generations that haven't had to use the ecological approach. They've forgotten about it. It's been a very simple procedure for them to just squirt, and so that they've forgotten that we need to work this system and support the system, and then the system will support us. And education, the purpose of this conference is to educate and change the thought process as we're working there. Very excellent program, very excellent opportunity to bring people together, to recognize the role of nutrition, the role of the environment, the role of the system, and get us back on track.
Yes, everybody has a role to play. The plants, the animals, you as a person, the environment itself. Everybody has a role to play. Let me hear from you, Doc, in terms of solution, your thoughts.
I'll agree with my two colleagues here. Briefly.
Yes.
It's give me a session of my own.
Yeah.
I'm happy. For me, this is a dream come true, where eventually we've seen the full circle. This is why a doctor is here. We are seeing increased rates of cancer. We're seeing increasing rates of diabetes. We're seeing increasing rates of obesity.
Even in children.
Even in children.
So sad.
And we are asking big questions. It's not just Roundup, Panga, or Kausha. We believe now there's evidence implying that they are contributing. But there are other toxins. There's heavy metals. There's lead. There's mercury. There are other. We need to try and reduce this and move towards safer food. That's where agroecology comes in. Go back to the roots. When I was in medical school more than 30 years ago, we hardly any cancer cases.
Yet these days,
like you just said,
every day there's somebody who's being diagnosed with cancer.
For children, young people, all over. And so we need to heal the soil. We need to heal the ecosystem all across, as Professor is saying, and is an expert in environment, to create a system whereby we heal the soil, we cleanse our water systems, our air, and produce food in sustainable systems or formats that shift from killing to living and let live. This is the core of the Agri Conference, to showcase other ways of growing food without killing other members, including ourselves. And therefore, this is part of, for the Kenyan scenario, a process of assisting us to achieve the Big Four agenda. So this conference is about helping the president achieve his favorite Big Four agenda: safe food, secure food, food security, less disease, universal health coverage, more productivity, agribusiness, more money, build houses. Hallelujah.
And we bloom as a whole.
Really. Thank you very much.
Your closing remarks, especially just briefly, if you can be able, just touch on the whole issue of GMOs, which I know is a whole other topic, but due to the constraint of time, in terms of solutions.
Let me tell you, Jen, GMO are all over the world today. We, in fact, are eating them in this country, being produced all over the world today. If you get food from UK, US, German, France, Japan, etc., you are eating a GMO food. Let's leave it at that. Even cotton we are talking about, all the clothes we wear now, you don't know they are being imported. China, GMOs are everywhere and being actually consumed. Even the same persons, proponents saying we should not promote GMO in this country, they are having that GMOs in their own countries. They can come to that to a later date. Before these colleagues of mine go, Dr. here, very eloquent in issues, we may need another meeting to discuss the GMOs alone without particularly now. But let me go back to the original talk.
Yes.
Can we now combine, Prof, we will combine any means necessary, integrated pest management control to allow for a reduced pesticide, reduced etc., so that we don't rely on only one safety mechanism which can be destructive to the live and let live. So my proposal is this: we now rely on anything that works, but combinations of bits and so that we have quantity. Don't be lied, both quality and quantity. I'm talking about quantity of a poor person who may not have food to eat. So you expose them to another group of food which they can't afford, becomes a difficulty. So, Prof, I thank you so much. We look forward to further interactions on this matter. And Dr. Keep the fire burning on these issues on organic food. We are with it. I thank you and wish you the very best for the week.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for just coming through and just sharing with us, from your pots of knowledge. And we hope that you, as a viewer, have been able to learn a thing or two, because we're here to help you know better and know these things. They're within our reach. It starts with our human values, how we interact socially, and how we even approached the sources of foods we eat, the soil, the plants, and the chemicals that we are using, and fertilizers and pesticides, all that. Let's just start with a change of mindset and see how we can be able to grow a healthier generation, a healthier country. Look at the future. Don't just look at the here. In as much as we have an end goal in mind, focus on the journey as well. We have been just putting a focus on matters to do with agriculture and the agricultural system and the whole concept of agri-ecology. And helping me with this discussion, I've been having three fantastic panelists with me. I'll start to the extreme left. He is Professor Ratemo Micheka, who is the Honorary Secretary at the Kenya National Academy of Science. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
At the center, we have Dr. Peter Mokaya, the Managing Director at Organic Consumer Alliance. Thank you very much. And to my immediate left, Professor Don Huber, who is a plant pathologist. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we want to take a quick break, but remember we have another discussion coming up with Ramaguko, so don't go anywhere. Keep talking to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. I was unable to check on some of your questions, but I will be addressing them, and of course, any that the guests can be able to touch on, I will refer you to them so that can be able to better address them. All right, Good Morning Kenya returns after this break.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sana.
Thank you very much.